Hello, and today we're going to be talking about what is kinky and the various ways that people tend to define it and where most of the drama comes from. Now, when I talk about being a member of the kinky community, a lot of times I like to describe things in terms of a graph. Uh, you have your graph. And while I understand that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say there's outliers in various parts of this community and such, I'm talking more on a basic level, so I apologize in advance to anyone I might offend. Now, when you have your graph, what you have here is you have your your y-axis, and the y-axis is the level of interest that you might call like in DS, in domination and submission. Um, and your x-axis, you know, is your interest in paraphilias, leather, lace, being dressed as George Clooney and whipped with a rubber noodle, whatever it is. And all of these people, everyone on the graph is labeled under this label that we call kinky. All right, these are people who define themselves as kinky. Now, the thing about kink is that it's part of your sexuality, and when you're talking about your sexuality, you're talking about something that's so immensely personal that you really want that word to mean you. Um, because you spend a lot of time probably feeling ashamed or hiding or not being able to talk to your family, and you found a community, and you want that community to be about what you are, what you believe you are, and under the titles that you believe yourself to fall under. And when somebody is radically different than you and is also calling themselves under that word, that can be very disconcerting. And so what we have is in the community we oftentimes have a lot of drama, and the drama tends to fall between two various squeaky wheels who feel that the other person is doing something very wrong. In short, we have, once again, we have our diagram, our graph, and so we've got the people way up here who have no interest in whips and spanking and diapers and leather or whatever. All they're interested is in the power dynamics stuff, and the people way up here, they're very into power dynamics. They want to dress as like an executive and their secretary, and that's very sexy to them, and that's all they want. Maybe samurai and geisha. Maybe they've got some role play stuff thrown in, but that each of them just a little bit further. But mostly they just want the power dynamics. They don't want anything else. And then you've got the people who are way over here on the x-axis, and they're saying, "Oh, I just want to roll around and be kinky and toss the other person around, and the other person can toss me around. We're going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. We're going to do spanking and whips and leather, and we're going to, dress as Muppets and whatever it is that they've decided they consider part of their kink or what have you. But they want no interest in taking power over the other person. And so you got the person who's way up here, and you got the person who's way over here, and they're both under this title of the graph, which we're calling kinky, and they argue with each other consistently because they want to say that the other person is deeply doing everything wrong, because they're daring to use the same title for themselves that you are, but even though they are radically different in how they're expressing themselves under that title. And most people tend to be somewhere in the middle. There's people who like a fair bit of DS and a fair bit of paraphilia, and they're sort of right dead center in the middle. Now, one of the things I also like to talk about when I talk about this graph is that this is people who are right here, at where the two graphs join, who are not really into DS, and are not really into anything, that go beyond the commonly held paraphilias, and there are commonly held paraphilias like tits and dick and, seeing people naked and, being naked in the presence of others. These are things that turn most people on, and therefore are not considered kinky because they're just commonly held paraphilias. But so the people here, though, they do just hold those commonly held paraphilias, and they also consider themselves kinky. And these people scream, "No, you guys aren't interested in DS. You can't be kinky." And these people are like, "What do you mean? You don't like to do anything that outside the quote unquote normal? You can't be considered kinky." But the reason that I think that they should absolutely be included and be considered is the difference is that everyone on this graph, generally, the thing that binds us all together is that we've all really thought about what makes us happy, about what brings our desires to the fore, and we're looking for someone who responds to those desires, and we want to make all those desires work together. And when you've considered your desires on that intimate level, and you know specifically what you're looking for and also what you're not looking for, that access to communication and that willingness to self-analyze and that willingness to discuss these ideas with another person, those are the things that really bind the kink community as a whole. In that, whether you're very, very much into power dynamics, or you're very, very much into some sort of, you're a spanko, or you're, a little, or you're a pony boy, or what have you, or you're really, really into bondage, or if you're not, and you just simply really have figured out that what really makes you happy in the bedroom is to do missionary style sex, and that's what you're really looking for, somebody else who's really thought about it, tried a couple things, and has really found that that's all they want as well. These people who have really considered, have really thought about their desires, and have become explicit and in their understanding of what oftentimes is considered intrinsic. They've instead of just saying, "Oh, well, desire is a reality. I don't really need to look at it," instead they've looked at it, they've thought about it, and that's what makes people kinky in my mind. It's the willingness to consider. It's the willingness to think about something that some people think are shameful or are concerned about, and they allow themselves to really delve deeper. And so that's what I consider kinky. The reason that I think of this as an entire community is because we're all willing to embrace the fact that other people are willing to embrace their desires. No matter what those desires are, none of them can be wrong because they are part of who we are. And knowing who we are is what allows us to become who we are. Without self-analysis, a lot of times we can get lost in this universal understanding of who we should be. And the beautiful thing I've found about the community is that once you decided that you fall under this label, a lot of people's next step is to then find out, well, what does that label really mean? And what does it really mean to me? And knowing who you are on a deep personal level and being able to share that with another person is such a beautiful gift to give to your potential partners, no matter what the results of that question are. I'm Mr. M, and thank you for listening.